It was a rainy day when Clara found the painting. She had always been fond of antiquities, old furniture, dusty books, and particularly artwork. It was during a visit to a small, obscure antique shop, tucked away in a narrow alley of the city, that she first saw it. The painting was hidden in a dimly lit corner of the shop, its frame adorned with intricate gold carvings that seemed to shimmer faintly, almost as if they had a life of their own. The painting depicted a young woman, pale and delicate, dressed in a dark Victorian gown. Her eyes, however, were what caught Clara's attention. They seemed to be looking directly at her, their expression unreadable, yet filled with an unsettling depth. The woman's mouth was slightly curled into a knowing smile, but it was the kind of smile that suggested a hidden darkness, something no one would dare to ask about. Clara couldn't explain it, but she was drawn to the painting. It felt as though the woman in the portrait was calling to her, begging to be freed from the confines of the canvas. She approached the piece carefully, almost reverently, and ran her fingers lightly along the frame. The touch sent a strange chill down her spine, and she immediately pulled her hand back. A voice inside her head warned her not to touch it, but she dismissed it as nothing more than her imagination running wild. The shopkeeper, an elderly man with graying hair and a crooked smile, watched Clara closely. "That painting," he said in a gravelly voice, "is not something you want to buy. It's cursed." Clara's curiosity only deepened. Cursed? What do you mean?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. The shopkeeper hesitated, his gaze flickering toward the painting. "People who have owned that painting, strange things happen to them. Disappearances, madness, accidents. It's best to leave it where it is." Clara was about to dismiss his words when the shopkeeper added, "But if you truly want it, I won't stop you." After a long moment of indecision, Clara made up her mind. She had to have it. She didn't believe in curses or superstitions. She was a woman of reason. The price for the painting was steep, but it felt like destiny. Clara paid for the painting and left the shop, unaware of the dark forces she was about to invite into her life. Clara hung the painting in her apartment as soon as she got home. The room seemed to change the moment she placed it on the wall. The air grew heavier, the temperature slightly colder, and an eerie stillness settled over the space. Clara tried to ignore the growing sense of discomfort as she went about her day, but it was impossible to shake the feeling that she was being watched. That night, Clara went to bed exhausted, but her sleep was far from peaceful. She dreamed of the woman in the painting. In the dream, the woman's eyes followed Clara's every movement, and her smile grew wider, more twisted. The dream shifted into something darker. A shadowy figure appeared, lurking behind the woman, its presence suffocating. Clara tried to scream, but no sound came out. Suddenly, the shadow lunged at her, and she woke with a start, her heart racing. She sat up in bed, drenched in sweat, and glanced at the painting across the room. The woman's eyes seemed to glimmer in the dim light of the room, and Clara felt a chill run down her spine. It wasn't just a nightmare. Something was wrong with that painting. Clara couldn't explain it, but she knew that the woman was not just an image on canvas. She was alive in some way. Clara's obsession with the painting grew as the days passed. She couldn't stop thinking about it, the woman's face haunting her thoughts, her eyes always on the verge of revealing something terrible. Determined to uncover the truth, Clara began researching the painting's origins. She visited local libraries, scoured online forums, and even reached out to art historians. What she discovered was far more chilling than she could have imagined. The painting was created by an artist named Charles Darnell, a brilliant but reclusive painter in the late 19th century. The woman in the painting was believed to be his fiancée, Eleanor Blackwood. Darnell had been completely enamored with Eleanor, but their relationship was marred by tragedy. Eleanor was found dead in her home under mysterious circumstances, her body cold and her face frozen in a horrific expression of terror. Darnell was never found, but rumors spread that he had gone mad with grief and rage, and it was said that he had painted the portrait of Eleanor in a fit of obsession before disappearing without a trace. As Clara dug deeper, she learned that the painting had changed hands several times over the years, with each new owner experiencing bizarre and inexplicable events. Some claimed to have seen the figure in the painting move. Others reported hearing whispers in the dead of night. Some simply vanished, their fates unknown. The final owner before Clara had been a wealthy businessman named Richard Payne. Payne had acquired the painting from an estate sale, but after a few months, he was found dead in his study, the painting hanging ominously on the wall. The authorities had ruled his death as a heart attack, but his personal belongings had been strewn about the room as though there had been a struggle. The connection was undeniable. The painting had cursed everyone who owned it, and now Clara was its newest victim. The strange occurrences escalated. Clara would hear faint whispers coming from the painting at night, soft murmurs that seemed to be calling her name. The shadows in her apartment grew longer, darker, and the woman in the painting began to change. Her smile widened, and her eyes seemed to grow even more intense, as if she were reaching out to Clara from within the canvas. One evening, Clara invited her friend Lucy over to try and ease her growing paranoia. Lucy was immediately unsettled by the painting, the way it seemed to dominate the room. "Clara, you have to get rid of this thing," Lucy urged, her voice shaking. "I don't care what it costs. It's not worth the risk." Clara laughed nervously. "It's just a painting, Lucy. There's nothing wrong with it." But night, Lucy had a nightmare. In her dream, she was trapped inside the painting, surrounded by the darkness that seemed to grow thicker with each passing second. The woman in the portrait reached out to her, her fingers curling around Lucy's throat. When Lucy awoke, her neck was sore, as though someone had been choking her in her sleep. Clara's mind began to unravel. The whispers from the painting became louder, more persistent. They no longer seemed like distant sounds, but voices that filled her head, demanding that she understand their message. The woman's smile was now a grotesque snarl, and her eyes gleamed with malevolence. Clara's life became consumed by the painting. She couldn't eat, sleep, or think about anything else. She stopped going to work, stopped answering her phone. She sat in front of the painting for hours, waiting for the woman to speak to her, to reveal the truth. One night, Clara found herself standing before the painting, mesmerized by the woman's eyes. She could hear her voice in her head, clear as day. "Come to me." Without thinking, Clara reached out to touch the canvas. As her fingers brushed the surface, a jolt of electricity shot through her, and she felt herself being pulled forward. The painting seemed to come alive, the woman's hand emerging from the canvas, her fingers curling around Clara's wrist. Clara screamed, but the woman's grip tightened. She tried to pull away, but the force was too great. The room seemed to spin, and Clara felt herself being drawn into the painting, into the darkness that awaited her. The next morning, Clara's apartment was found in disarray, but Clara was gone. The painting still hung on the wall, its smile wider than ever. Those who searched the apartment found no trace of Clara, no body, no sign of a struggle, just the empty, haunted gaze of the woman in the painting. As time passed, the painting disappeared from Clara's apartment. No one knew where it had gone, but rumors spread of another tragic soul who had fallen victim to its curse. The painting, like the woman in it, remained a mystery, an enigma, forever waiting for the next person to claim it, to succumb to its dark power. I was 17 when I lived through the worst night of my life. My name is Maya, and I grew up in Savannah, Georgia, a place where the air always smells like salt and rain, and the houses are too old to keep secrets. That summer, I was babysitting for the Vaughns, a new family who had just moved into the neighborhood. Their house sat at the edge of the marsh, half sunken into moss and fog, the kind of place where even the crickets sounded muffled. Their daughter, Leela, was 6, small, quiet, and pale, with long black hair and the habit of staring too long at things that weren't there. Her parents were polite, formal people. Mr. Vaughn taught literature at the local college, and Mrs. Vaughn worked in real estate. They were always exhausted, but kind. They paid well and never came home late. That night, they were attending a work dinner across town and said I'd be back by midnight. I arrived at 6:00 sharp. Mrs. Vaughn gave me the usual rundown. Dinner's ready on the counter. Lila can watch one movie. Bed by 8:30. She mentioned the baby monitor and told me, almost offhandedly, "Don't go into the upstairs room. It's being renovated." She smiled after saying it, but something in that smile felt rehearsed. Everything started out normal. Leela ate her spaghetti in silence, humming softly under her breath between bites.
Leela, are you
When I
okay?
asked what she was singing, she said,
Please answer me.
"It's the song the lady upstairs taught me." I laughed. "You mean your
Come on,
mom?"
Leela. Why won't you play?
She shook her head. "No,
Look at
the other
shadows.
one.
Don't let it know you can.
I thought it was just kid stuff." We watched a cartoon after dinner, and by 8:15, I was tucking her into bed. Her room had old wooden floors that creaked no matter how softly you walked. Above her bed, a pink nightlight shaped like a rabbit cast an eerie glow on the ceiling. She clutched her doll, a cloth thing with button eyes and tangled yarn hair, and whispered, "Good night, Miss Maya. Don't listen if she calls you." I asked, "Who?" "The lady upstairs," she said, and rolled over. By 9:00, the house was dead quiet. I was curled up on the couch, scrolling through my phone when I heard it. A faint, sharp tap, then another. It came from upstairs. I muted my phone and listened. A third tap, slower this time, followed by the groan of an old floorboard. At first, I thought it was the wind or an animal. The Vaughn's place was surrounded by trees, after all. But the sound wasn't random. It was rhythmic. Deliberate. I grabbed the flashlight from my bag and started up the stairs, my pulse pounding. The light flickered as I reached the second floor. The renovation room was at the end of the hall. The door was half open. I could see just enough through the crack to notice a long piece of red thread trailing out of the room, stretched tight, like it had been pulled across the floor and into the dark. Every nerve in my body screamed to turn around, but I stepped forward anyway. When I nudged the door open with my foot, the smell hit me first. Sweet and foul, like rotting flowers. The flashlight beam swept across the floor. There were dolls everywhere. Dozens of them. Some plastic, some handmade, some missing eyes or limbs. All propped up against the wall like an audience. In the center of the room sat a half-finished doll the size of a child, its skin made of stitched-together fabric scraps, and something else. Something that didn't look like fabric at all. Its face wasn't sewn on yet, just a blank oval of flesh-colored material with holes where eyes should have been. The red thread I'd seen outside was still attached to it, looped through a needle sticking from its shoulder. My flashlight flickered again, and then the baby monitor in my pocket hissed to life. Through the static, a voice whispered, "Come upstairs, Maya." I froze. I hadn't turned the monitor on. Then, faintly, the sound of humming. A lullaby. The same tune Lila had been singing earlier. My heart stopped. I ran back to Lila's room. The monitor still crackled in my hand. I burst through the door, and she wasn't in bed. The sheets were rumpled, the doll was on the floor, and the window was wide open, the curtains blowing inward. "Lila!" I hissed. Nothing. Then from the hallway, footsteps. Slow, dragging, coming closer. I locked the door, shoved a chair under the handle, and called 911. My hands were shaking so violently I dropped the phone twice. The operator told me to stay quiet and not hang up. Outside the door, the footsteps stopped. Then, scratch, scratch, something ran along the wood. Like fingernails. The knob twisted slowly, once, twice, then stopped. "Lila," I whispered. Something giggled, but it wasn't Lila's voice. The laughter was higher, raspier, almost wet. Then the whisper came again, from the other side of the door. "She likes you, Maya. She says you can stay too." The chair jerked forward. I screamed and clutched the phone to my ear. The dispatcher's voice was tinny and distant. "Officers are 3 minutes away. Stay calm." The door shook again, harder. A thud, then silence. Then I heard it, the creak of the attic hatch opening above me. I looked up just as dust rained down from the ceiling. A square of blackness yawned open, and something pale and thin began to descend. I backed into the corner, clutching the phone. The light from the rabbit nightlight flickered wildly, strobing the room. And then I saw her. A woman, if you could still call her that, crawled down from the attic. Her limbs were too long, her face a patchwork of mismatched skin, stitches like red veins across her cheeks. Her mouth was a jagged seam pulled into a grin. In one hand, she held a needle longer than my arm. "Lila," she crooned, "come finish your sister." My scream must have rattled the windows. The next thing I remember is the front door crashing open and flashlights flooding the hallway. The creature, or whatever it was gone. They found me curled in the corner clutching Lila's doll. The police searched the house. Lila was found outside, barefoot in the marsh, shivering and covered in mud. She kept whispering, she didn't like my stitches. In the upstairs room, the officers found the half-finished doll, but it wasn't there anymore when forensics came back the next morning. Only a pile of red thread and a blood-stained needle remained. The Vaughns moved away 2 weeks later. No one ever bought that house again. I never babysat again either. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear that lullaby in my head. And every so often when I check my reflection in the mirror, I swear there's a faint red line running along my jaw, like someone started stitching. I never expected a single swipe to rearrange the bones of my life. At 23, I was barely holding things together. Part-time shifts at a late-night deli, lectures I sometimes slept through, rent that felt like a fist around my throat. My parents were a memory of arguments and silence. My sister had moved overseas. I had a tiny room above a bakery in Newtown and a roommate, Zoe, who flirted with danger like it was a hobby. When my roommate Zoe joked one night, "Just get a sugar daddy, Ivy. Half the girls I know already do." I laughed, but later, lying in bed scrolling through Tinder, I couldn't ignore how easy the idea sounded. I laughed then, the kind of laugh that never reached my eyes. Still, alone in bed, I scrolled through profiles until a message popped up from Victor Hawthorne. He was 50, he said, but the photos were of a man who might have aged on set. Tailored coats, a silver widow's peak, and eyes that were far too precise. His bio, collector of rare things, looking for a companion who understands beauty. His message appeared a heartbeat after I swiped yes. "Hello, Ivy. Your photo of an honesty I rarely see. Would you allow me to show you dinner?" He wrote like someone who expected the world to fall into place. I told myself it was harmless. I needed the money. I wanted to feel wanted. The restaurant was one I'd only read about in columnists' feeds. Chandeliers, linen that smelled of strangers' wealth. Victor stood as I entered with a movement so practiced it could have been choreographed. He kissed my hand with an old-fashioned courtesy and ordered a bottle I couldn't have named. He listened. He spoke about art, the way other people spoke about weather, with certainty and an impatience that made him sound important. When I fumbled a joke about my student loans, he reached across and set a thin envelope between us. "For a month's rent," he said. "Come to the gallery Saturday. There's something you should see." The envelope had more money than I'd seen in the past 3 months. It felt like oxygen. Victor didn't pressure me for anything sexual. He called himself a patron. He invited me to his townhouse in Paddington, which smelled of old paper and citrus. He taught me how to taste wine as if I'd been born with the wrong tongue, took me to auction previews, and kept me in a net of compliments so fine I hardly noticed when they tightened. "Have you ever wanted to be preserved?" he asked once, idly, while I leaned over his library's balcony. The city below spread like a map. "I don't know what you mean," I said. "To hold something in the moment," he said, almost smiling. "To keep it from decay. There are graceful ways to keep beauty untouched." His words made me laugh in a way that was too small. There was a coldness there, a habit of looking at people as objects to be curated. Still, I stayed because it was easier than leaving. Over the weeks, I watched him move through the city like someone with keys to rooms no one else knew. He introduced me to younger women who hung on his sentences with hungry politeness. Once I saw one of them, Maya, standing by a sculpture in an off-site exhibition, her hands trembling around a glass of water. She was 19 and looked like she'd swallowed a storm. After that, I sated on Maya. I told myself I was protective. I told myself I was jealous. Victor only smiled when I mentioned her. "She's fragile," he said. "She needs someone careful." One evening, he invited me to a small gathering at the townhouse. Zoe had gone out of town, and I almost declined. But the money, the easy warmth of being chosen, won. The other guest was Maya. She smiled at me with lips that didn't reach her eyes. The party was quiet, the three of us sliding between conversation that was polite and pitched. Victor suggested a tour of his private rooms, a part of the house he kept locked for collectors. The basement, he called it, where old things were kept in air that smelled like cedar and winter. When we reached the door, the mood changed. The light was flat. Maya was pale, and for the first time, I noticed that she flinched at his touch. "I want to show you what preservation looks like," Victor said, gentle as a teacher. "You'll understand." I blinked, confused, and then he stabbed Maya. Her scream was muffled as his hand clamped over her mouth. Blood sprayed against the polished floor. My body froze, my lungs locked. When she didn't stir, panic carved a tunnel through me. Victor's face went unreadable. He said quietly that accidents happened and that we needed to handle it so the police didn't turn the house inside out for months. He spoke as if he were arranging flowers. I wanted to run, to scream, but my legs betrayed me. Instead, I helped. I don't remember why. Maybe fear, maybe shock, maybe his control over me was stronger than I ever admitted. I helped him drag Eva's body, helped clean the blood. Afterwards, Victor poured me wine and sat across the table with an expression like a verdict. "You understand why I do this?" he asked. "To keep things pristine, to free them from vulgar endings." 2 nights later, the police came. Someone in the building had heard screaming, or maybe seen us with a door shut too tightly. I never learned who. I remember the bright uniforms, the questions, my voice quavering when they asked where I'd been that night. Victor spoke smoothly, with names and alibis and the practiced ease of a man who had rehearsed an explanation. He looked at me once in court, a small, almost tender glance, and it felt like being felled. Newspapers made a monument of the story. Victor Hawthorne, collector, charged with manslaughter. Maya, the missing student. They called me a companion to a suspect, a witness, a person who might have more to say. The cameras looked through me as if I were glass to be tested. At the trial, I learned to speak in short sentences. At night, I learned to listen for my own footfalls in the apartment, to catalog the times I had been led and the times I had consented. Victor's lawyers painted him as eccentric, a man fascinated by mortality. His eyes, when he glanced at me across the courtroom, said something different: ownership, amusement, and an inch of threat. After the verdict, after the press left, and the house was sealed for evidence, I found myself sitting on the curb outside the building, watching strangers pass. Everyone assumed I was damaged in ways I could not fully explain. Sometimes I think I was. Sometimes I think I was merely tired. Sometimes I still open the message that started it, the casual, elegant request to meet, and the words look like an invitation written in a language I did not understand. "Would you allow me to show you dinner?" they say, and I try to tell myself the truth, that I'd been hungry for much longer than one night could fix, and that hunger makes people do things they don't recognize later. I don't know if I was his victim or his accomplice. I only know what the nights taught me, how easily terror could be folded into civility, how a polished hand can press the sharpest things into your palm while you count your blessings. The choice, in the end, felt like a paper I'd signed without opening. And in quieter moments, when rain makes the pavement shine like a gallery floor, I still feel the memory of his voice telling me why he believed he was right, and the small, unbearable twist when someone you let look after you decides you are an object he will keep, whether you agree or not. Julie is a 21-year-old woman living in San Francisco, a college graduate with a good degree but struggling with a low-paying office job at a small consulting firm. She is smart, ambitious, but weighed down by financial burdens, tuition debt, supporting her family. The dream of a university lecture hall in Canada, of white snow and a bright future, seems too far away. The burden of tuition debt and the desire to support her parents makes her feel suffocated. She realizes that with her current salary, that dream will always be just a dream. That night, in her small bedroom, Julie surfs the internet and stumbles upon articles about girls earning thousands of dollars a month from OnlyFans. At first, she brushes it off, feeling it is not suitable for her. But then, the images of bills, debt figures, and worried faces of her parents appear again. After a fierce internal struggle, she took a deep breath and made a decision. It's just temporary, she told herself. Just enough money to support my dream. I'll have it under control. She carefully created an account under the name Julien, filmed a short introductory video with a somewhat forced smile, and posted her first photos, which were still quite discreet. The first notifications of subscribers and small tips made Julie both happy and nervous. After a few weeks, she had a steady following, paying $10 a month. Gradually, she grew bolder, posting more daring content as requested. The money in her account grew, and the Canadian dream seemed a little closer. She promised herself that all of this money would go toward her education, and when she had enough, she would stop. Julie's life now alternates between two worlds, the dull office worker by day and the charming Julien online by night. One day, she attends a business conference at a fancy coffee shop. She feels out of place among the men in suits, the talk of contracts and profits. She smiles, handing over dozens of business cards with her full name, company, and, unfortunately, her home address, an odd requirement of the company to establish trust. That evening, Julie receives a notification that a new subscriber named John Smith has registered. He immediately texts her. The conversation starts out normal, even humorous. But then the questions become more personal. Do you have a dog? Are you dating anyone? Do you live with your parents? Julie, still naive and thinking that this was just a fan's way of getting to know her, answered all of them without thinking. Little did she know that each of her answers was providing the anonymous person with valuable information. After learning that she lived alone, because she said her roommate was away on a business trip, John Smith started making more daring requests in exchange for generous tips. One odd request was for a photo of her feet, then friend request on Instagram for $10. Julie hesitated, but the money was too tempting. She thought, it's just a friend request. What's the big deal? Julie accepted the friend request. She went to John Smith's profile and saw that it was completely blank. No posts, no followers. But there was an orange circle glowing around his profile picture, signaling a new story. Her heart skipped a beat. She clicked on it. The first story was a short video of her house from a distance, in the woods across the street, posted 2 hours ago. Julie shivered. It must be a coincidence, she tried to reassure herself. She swiped to the second story. This time, the video was from across the street, zooming in on her bedroom window, the only room with a light in the house. The video was posted 5 minutes ago. Julie's blood ran cold. Trembling, she swiped to the last story. It was a video shot right on her porch, looking through the glass. He's right here. Immediately, a message popped up on the screen. Let me in. Julie screamed, throwing her phone onto the bed. She heard the handle on the front door downstairs being turned roughly. She dashed out of the room, locking the door behind her, her hands shaking. She called her father. Her voice was lost in sobs. Her father, who had been enjoying the trip, suddenly became serious, ordering her to call the police and find a place to hide. Soon after, she heard a loud bang, followed by the sound of broken glass. He had entered the house. Julie panicked and ran into her parents' bedroom, remembering that there was a way to the attic. She heard the stranger's heavy footsteps coming up the stairs, and he called out Julian in a creepy voice. She quickly pulled down the attic ladder, climbed up in the dark, and pushed it up with all her might, slamming the door shut as soon as he burst into the room. Julie lay huddled on the dusty attic floor, holding her breath as she listened. He was rummaging around, breaking things. A moment later, she heard police sirens getting closer. The intruder ran away. By the time the police and her parents arrived, the house was in ruins. The police found traces of chloroform on the broken living room window. It was then that Julie remembered the business card she had given to dozens of people at the conference. Her stalker, who knew she lived alone and didn't have a dog, was one of them. Julie deleted her OnlyFans account and all her social media. The money she had made now only brought back horror. She decided to move to another city with her sister. Although the stalker was still at large, her life had changed forever. Julie got in the car with her sister, heading to a new place. She still occasionally startled and looked back, the haunting image of the faceless man in the blue shirt still there, a bitter reminder of the price she paid for her dream. The St. Catherine's Sacred Heart Church in Kolkata is not only a place of worship, but also a dormitory for young nuns, girls who have renounced all worldly luxuries to serve God. After a few years of training, the nuns are sent to churches affiliated with the Sacred Heart Society. On the last Friday night of March, the prayer session took place in a solemn atmosphere. Mother Superior Agatha introduced a 23-year-old girl to the other nuns. This is God's special child, Helena. She will dedicate her life to God. From now on, Helena will live with us. But Helena's face was cold and deeply sad. She did not make eye contact with anyone, and when she looked at people, she showed no emotion. As soon as Mother Agatha finished her introduction, Helena quietly went back to her room. It seemed that she was not used to this environment. A heavy atmosphere surrounded her, making the other nuns feel strange from the first moment. The next morning, as the prayer began, the young nun Rena noticed Helena standing silently behind, muttering something in a strange voice, sometimes like a man, sometimes like a child. Rena shivered, trying to listen but couldn't understand. Helena avoided all eyes, as if hiding something inside her. That night, when the other nuns slept, Rena peeked through Helena's window. The sight gave her goosebumps. Helena sitting on a chair, her body twisted, her limbs knotted, her neck tilted to one side like a living doll. Suddenly, Helena turned her neck towards Rena. Her eyes were deep black. Her hair was tangled. Her teeth were black as if burned. Rena screamed, alerting Mother Agatha and the other nuns. What happened? Mother Agatha ran over in a panic. Rena pointed towards Helena's room. Mother Agatha looked through the window and was also shocked. Mother Agatha held the cross in her hand and walked towards Helena. Helena jumped off the chair and landed on the ground and started growling at Mother Agatha like a wild animal and stared at her. Suddenly, the cross slipped from her hand and fell. Immediately after, Helena's eyes turned black. Helena's fingers snapped back with a cracking sound, and Helena, like a beast, jumped on Mother Agatha and chewed the flesh on her hand. Helena stood there like a demon, clutching the flesh in her mouth, and Mother Agatha writhed in pain. After the attack, Helena turned back and sat on the chair and started muttering something in a strange voice. The sound coming from Helena's mouth was as if 2 or 3 people were talking at the same time. Hearing the cry for help, Father Dominic, who lived in the church, also came and saw Mother Agatha's condition and took her out. Everyone was shocked to see Helena in such a state. An atmosphere of fear also spread to the other girls. Father Dominic, the priest of the church, realized that this was not a normal thing. The other nuns were advised to stay away from Helena's room. He sprinkled holy water around her body, but blisters appeared on her skin every time the holy water touched her, looking like acid burns. After a while, Helena woke up and looked much weaker than before, moaning in pain. She barely had enough strength in her body to sit up. Her face was completely withered. Her body seemed to have collapsed. Seeing Helena's condition, Mother Agatha laid her down on the bed in the room. "Oh my God, she looks so bad. Let her rest here. The holy water will heal her." The next 2 days passed in absolute silence. Helena lay in bed, not eating or drinking anything, not speaking at all. After 2 days, she asked for water in broken words. At her mother's insistence, Helena was given water. Helena now looked a little more normal. It seemed that whatever evil spirit had really left her was now gone. Seeing Helena in such a state, Mother Agatha gently stroked her head. "Do you want something to eat?" Helena nodded in agreement, and then, after many days, Helena ate her fill. She kept eating, as if she had been hungry for countless years. As time passed, Helena's eating speed and eating style changed. Helena's entire mouth was numb from eating. After eating, Helena began to look a little different. Once again, her eyes began to change, and she began to mumble in a strange language. She said, speaking in different languages. Whatever she was doing at the moment was beyond her control. Before anyone could do anything, Helena had returned to normal. It was as if she had no idea what had just happened. Helena's behavior was becoming more and more bizarre with each passing hour. Mother Agatha and Father Dominic realized that they had exceeded their ability to deal with Helena. Helena would have to stay here until Friday, after which only Father Edmund could do anything. After a few days, Helena became extremely violent, screaming and making many voices at the same time. 3 days later, on Friday, Father Edmund arrived, and late at night, after everyone had gone to bed, the exorcism began. The deliverance began. Helena was tied to a chair. Crosses and burning candles were placed around her, and she was sprinkled with holy water, and then Father Edmund began to chant the incantation. Helena's pupils darkened again. A devilish smile appeared on her face. Helena was speaking many languages, at the same time. Sometimes a child's voice could be heard from her mouth, and sometimes a thunderous man's voice could be heard. As Father Edmund continued to chant the incantation, Helena seemed to be in a rage. Suddenly, Helena screamed loudly, and at the same time, all the candles around her went out simultaneously. And then Father Edmund saw the ground between the cross and Helena crack. Helena screamed in horror. Her screams became so loud that no one could bear it. Suddenly, Helena's body began to stiffen violently, and at the same time, Mother Agatha's eyes also turned pitch black. "Come on, leave me alone. I'll tell you. I'll tell you everything," Mother Agatha said in a scary voice. A year ago, Helena had experienced a tragic event. She was the victim of a family murder during an ancient ghost-worshipping ritual. At that time, an evil spirit and demon summoned from the ritual possessed Helena, causing her to be haunted since she was young. Helena was lucky to survive, but the demon spirit still followed her, making her always feel like someone was watching and emitting strange mumblings. Hearing this truth, everyone understood that guilt and despair were the reasons why the demons possessed Helena, and that she did not naturally become ferocious. Father Edmund continued the ritual, sprinkling holy water continuously, chanting the incantation. Helena screamed violently, her body stiffened, her eyes turned black, and a ghostly smile appeared. Every time the holy water touched her, blisters appeared, but the power of the incantation gradually suppressed the demonic force. Finally, Helena fell down, exhausted but still alive. Helena was taken to the hospital to recover. Her face and body were withered, but her soul was saved. Father Edmund said that this was the most important exorcism in the dormitory, and everyone who witnessed this event shuddered to remember it forever. St. Catherine's Church closed for a while to return to peace, but the memory of Helena and the demonic force that possessed her still haunted the nuns and priests, causing them to lose sleep every night. Helena continued to be closely monitored, and her story became a living horror legend in St. Catherine's dormitory. Under the light of a new moon, the clouds were as thin as gauze. The dirt road leading into the forest was so quiet that the sound of dry leaves sounded like bones scraping against each other. Alex walked ahead, the flashlight hanging from his backpack swaying, cutting a thin line of light through the fog. Maya followed closely behind, her hands cold, each step like she had to be pulled out of the mud. Leo walked behind, tripod and camera bag slung over his shoulder, his eyes deep but alert, scanning the surroundings like a sentry, silently counting his breaths to keep calm. They had read the worn-out diary, an anonymous priest written in blotchy reddish-brown ink about a village forgotten because of its debt to shadows. Maya stopped abruptly, grabbing Alex's sleeve. "Do you feel it? Like someone hungry?" Alex laughed, reassuringly in a light voice.
I don't know, guys. I'm getting a really bad feeling
Perfect
about
for a
this.
Halloween video. He raised the camera, panning around. Fog, trees, darkness. The lens caught a few specks of dust that shone like fireflies, or other things, small and staring back. Then the village appeared without warning, without a single light, without a puff of smoke. Only the air was heavy as a stone pressing on the chest. In front of the village gate, a rickety sign hung by a rusty string. Alex brought the flashlight closer. Burned black words were etched into the wood. "The unharvested shadows will find the curious." Maya took a step back. Alex smiled again, but his eyes were trembling. He pushed the gate open. The hinges made a long, screeching sound. like someone sucking in a breath to contain the pain. Inside, the village streets were filled with mud and leaves. The doors were half open, like cave entrances. Alex led the group into the first house, its wooden floors creaking. The musty smell mixed with the smell of burning incense crept into Maya's nose, making her cough slightly. On the table, an overturned earthenware bowl still lay. Alex flipped the bowl over. Below was a black and white photograph, blurry and cracked. A group of people in brown shirts, holding sickles, standing in the middle of a rice field that had been harvested to the stump. Leaving the house, they walked deeper. Every strange sound began to creep around them, light footsteps behind them. But when they turned around, there was only mist. Sighs from the abandoned well, whispers mixed in the wind, like many voices overlapping. Not harvested yet. Alex leaned into each door, panting with hunting instinct. Blurred figures began to touch the edges of the frame, just the corners of eyes. But Maya
Alex,
could clearly
stop!
see a pair of eyes red as burning coals peering through. She grabbed Alex's hand so hard it hurt. Alex, stop. It's a trap. Alex stubbornly. I just need a few more shots. Suddenly, a window banged as if someone had crashed into it. All three spun. Behind the cracked glass, a face appeared for a moment. Hollow, eyes two dark red holes, mouth open but making no sound, then suddenly gone. Alex dropped the camera to the floor, the indicator lights still flashing. They gathered their things and ran to the middle of the village. There, a small square led into many crisscrossing alleys. Houses on both sides changed positions. Windows seemed to turn to watch them. Leo counted his steps, but the count kept slipping away, as if someone had broken the numbers in his head. A hand reached out from the void and grabbed Leo's wrist. Leo jerked, jumped back, the other hand flailing reflexively, leaving 5 long purple marks on his skin, like the marks of fingers without flesh. They were lost in a corridor, in the village. Maya closed her eyes, took a deep breath, trying to find a beat other than her own. And she heard it. Under her feet, in the ground, something moving. Like many hands crawling, searching for calves, ankles. Don't stand still, Maya whispered. They can pull if we stand still. They continued walking, and then the corridor suddenly opened in front of a small church, the bell tower broken in half, the clock face frozen at 3:13. Alex pushed the door. The smell of burnt incense came like a wave. On the altar, portraits were pasted on top of each other. Peasant faces, dark eyes, gentle but deep down were tired and resentful. Some of the photos were torn, revealing behind them were old words, called to pay rice tax, didn't return, strange disease after harvest, missing in the well. The paper shook even though there was no wind. A dry bell rang from the broken tower, not knowing who had rung it. The candles in the church flickered, then flared up a little before going out. Maya held her head. They're coming! Leo grabbed Alex's shoulder. Go, now! But the crescent moon suddenly rushed out from behind the clouds, casting silver light on the broken window. And as the moonlight touched the church floor, from the dark corners, figures began to step out. A figure approached Alex, reaching out to touch his collar. He was lifted, his feet kicking into the air, a scream stuck in his throat as if swallowed by the thick air. The smell of corpses and incense smoke mixed with the smell of burning straw lingered around. Alex was mumbling, his hands flailing. Leo let out a low growl, lunged forward, grabbed Alex's stomach, and pulled him back. He felt those dry, scratched fingers dig into Alex's sin like hooks. He pulled hard. Alex's body fell into Leo's hands like a sandbag, both of them rolling down the church steps. Maya, still holding her head, suddenly opened her eyes, grabbed the metal bracelet, put it on Alex's wrist, her hands trembling. "Alex, the number, the document in the diary." Alex gasped. He rummaged through his backpack and pulled out a piece of paper marked with a marker. On it, under the phrase, "Do not call their names," there was a short, hastily written and ugly verse. "The shadow demands its share. The person returns the favor. The black fire shines, the boundary opens. When the moon is a scythe, place the ring between the shadow and the bone. When the..." Maya recited in a whisper. She placed the Jiamchio ring in the space between the three people and the shadows. The ring did not touch the ground. It hung there, as if tied to something invisible. A very soft crack, like a tight string being cut. A few shadows dissolved like smoke. Only their red eyes fell like upside-down fireflies, extinguished in the air. The wall cracked open like a mouth. Portraits pasted on the wall fell out, flying around in the wind that came from nowhere. Breathing. The sound of wood groaning. The sound of people screaming from the ground. The passages outside, seen through the windows, seemed to change places, retreating when someone tried to step forward, sliding like the surface of water. "Not long enough. Just hold them. A little," Maya said, her eyes not leaving the circle. Leo lifted Alex up. "Which way?" Maya closed her eyes, feeling. Everything was like a moving maze, but there was a rhythm. The rhythm of the forest. She opened her eyes, pointing towards the side door of the church. They rushed out. The circle of judgment drifted along, following Alex like a black bird. Shadows spread out from both sides of the alley. A dry hand jumped up from the ground, grabbed Alex's ankle. He almost fell. Leo bent down and hit hard. The hand shattered into cold ash. "Don't stand still," Maya reminded. The shadows rushed forward, not slow this time. The circle of judgment shook, emitting a sound like metal rubbing against stone. Maya read the awkward words again, her voice starting to break. The largest shadow, probably the shadow of the old village chief from years ago, stretched out, its eyes red like two pieces of hot iron. It touched the edge of the circle and cried out. It took a step back, just one, but enough for the three of them to break free of the encirclement, dash through the broken fence, trample on rotting leaves, and breathe in the forest air. Leo ran ahead, then Alex, Maya. Behind them, the village stretched out, trying to hold them back with the alleys sliding under their feet. The wind came. The mist in the village was whipped back like a curtain. The shadows at the edges couldn't get through, their red eyes burning, then fading like dying embers. A long, long sigh, as if the whole village were exhaling. They didn't stop until they were deep in the forest. Leo plopped down, his back against the tree trunk. His hands were shaking, but his eyes were still alert. Alex put the camera on his lap, the light still flashing. I got it, he said, unsure. Maya hugged her knees, put her chin on them, inhaled the smell of damp leaves like medicine. We're out, she whispered. Temporarily. A week later, on Halloween night, Alex sat in his rented room, the window ajar, the sound of cars in the distance like a hazy river. He turned on the camera, reviewed the footage. In the frame, the fog shimmered beautifully like an effect. The door closed by itself. The window slammed shut. The hallway seemed to stretch out. Everything was there. The circle of judgment appeared in a few frames, black like a hole in the image. There was a very light knock on the door. He looked up. No one. In the silence, a very soft sigh passed by, as if coming from the corner of the wall. Alex stood up, walked to the window, pulled the curtains. Outside on the street, people were laughing, dressing up. Cheap witch and vampire masks danced under the neon lights. When he pulled the curtains back, in the reflection on the glass, Alex saw that behind him there was not only his shadow, there was also a thin, flat, long black streak, like a scythe leaning against the corner of the room. He turned around. The corner of the room was empty. Alex thought to himself, "Stress." The phone vibrated. A message from Maya. "Are you listening tonight?" Alex was about to reply, "Listen to what?" when he heard it. In the sound of the wind seeping through the crack of the door, an old sound crept into the room. Tired but persistent. Not harvested yet. Leo texted the group, "Don't be alone. Lock the door." Alex looked up at the door lock. It was still locked. Then he looked at the floor. There were a few small black dust particles, like ash, lying in a semicircle at the threshold. The circle of the orb had fallen back at the edge of the forest that night. But here, something had left the mark of another circle. Alex opened the cupboard, looked for the priest's diary. On the last page, under the red-brown ink, there was a new line. The ink still wet, the smell of burnt incense lingering. "They can't harvest the body. They will wait for the soul." He took a step back. In his mind flashed that red eye. The circle of the Guardians may be temporary, but the border is real. He texted back, "Come to my place tonight. Stay. Stay." Maya replied with a moon icon. Leo replied, "I brought the rope." Alex smiled, half believing. What was the rope for? But then he remembered the moment they'd grabbed each other in the church. Perhaps that very bond was the only thing the shadow couldn't cut. Outside the window, Halloween bustled and then faded. Inside, 3 people sat side by side, candles placed around them, salt sprinkled on the threshold in a circle toward the window. "If they need a way out, give them a way out, not in," Maya whispered. Leo tied the rope around the 3 people's wrists, linking them like another circle, made of material so ordinary that even ghosts despised it. But ordinary is hard to break. Near midnight, when the new moon pierced the clouds once more, the whisper came again, clearer, as if someone was standing close to their ear. "Not harvested yet." Alex took a deep breath. "We are not your fields. You have been taken. We do not pay with us. If necessary, we will tell. We will name what happened." Maya nodded, eyes closed as if listening. Leo gently tightened the rope. The whisper receded a little, like an old man turning away, disappointed and relieved. The candlelight swayed, then stopped. At the doorway, the half-circle of black ash faded, giving way to the yellow dust particles of the street. They fell asleep as the sky neared dawn. In his dream, Alex saw that field again. The harvesters bowed their heads, the horizon blurred like a stain. But this time, when he looked up, at the edge of the field was a small black line, thin as a thread, the forest. Many years later, every Halloween season, in university clubs or video channels, the story of the Goodigai. It was rumored that every 100 years, the village opened its doors to harvest souls. Some people said they saw flashlights swaying in the mist. Some heard whispers like thin knives cutting through the wind. Alex, Maya, Leo did not return. They promised each other, if one day they needed to, they would go together and only together. They still heard the very light sighs in the windy night, like endless memories. But somewhere deep in the forest, the village still lay there. The houses changing places like board chess pieces. The cracked statue looked down at the dry hands crawling across the brick floor. The crescent moon occasionally turned into a scythe, licking the bright line on the warning board in front of the gate. The unharvested shadows will find the curious. And it seemed, somewhere in the shadows, a black circle still hovered, waiting for the right person to place it between the shadow and the bone. Because the border only exists when someone stands there to say, enough.